fired over.
Although this didn't come from them, I know that Tom Connors over at Midnight's Edge was talking about this. I think it was completely separate from this article, in fact.
When Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy took over as co-heads of Warner Brothers movie studio in early June 2022, one of the first decisions they made was to move forward with a sequel to Joker, the Oscar-winning $1 billion hit that helped redefine the heights a comic book movie could reach. Virtually all of the key deals were already put into place by their predecessor, Toby Emmerich, with A-list director Todd Phillips and star Joaquin getting 20 million paydays and the film landing a rich net budget of 190 million. The first film cost 55 million. Phillips was a huge asset for Warner, his home studio. One small outstanding matter was Lady Gaga's perk package. Within weeks, the papers were signed. Her pay was 12 million, and she officially joined Joker Folie. Abdy and DeLuca could have said no to making the film, but they would have been the laughingstocks of Hollywood, considering the astonishing success of Joker and its record-shattering ride at the global box office, where it ranked as the top-grossing R-rated film of all time until Deadpool and Wolverine came along. But over the October 4 to 6 weekend, everyone at Warner's, including the executive duo, were left reeling as Folie à Deux collapsed at the box office debut with 37.8 million domestic opening after becoming the first comic book movie in history to receive a D cinema score. Phillips, according to one source, spent the weekend in seclusion on a ranch property he owns. Domestically, Folie à Deux opened well behind DC's 2023 The Flash and Marvel Studios' The Marvels, both of which were major bombs. It also came in behind Sony's relatively inexpensive Morbius. Morbius did better than this.
It's Morbin time.
Morbius was probably more fun to watch, too. It is a complete audience rejection, says one source close to the film. Overseas, Folie à Deux came in an estimated 81 million, in line with expectations, but still notably behind the first film. While it is not the lowest North American opening for a pick based on a DC character, Joker Folie à Deux is a major stumble. Yet numerous sources tell THR that there's no studio head in Hollywood, say perhaps for Sony Pictures Tom Rothman, who would have turned down making a sequel to a film that was both a commercial and critical hit. To boot, Abdy and DeLuca were under orders by Warner Brothers Discovery chief David Zaslav to fill a bare cupboard after the studio's Project Popcorn disaster, which alienated talent by sending its entire 2021 slate day and date to its streaming service, Max. Yeah, that was Jason Killar. Remember when we were complaining about that?
Yep.
Zaslav is also keen to exploit the company's IP more fully. It's a collective failure, but it was right to make this move, says one top veteran producer and financier, who points out that Phillips is a brilliant director who has made Warner's billions between the first Joker and the Hangover movies. They were afraid of losing talent, too. They lost talent. They lost Christopher Nolan. They lost, I think Villeneuve was close to walking, too, after the whole Dune debacle. That was another day and date, remember?
Yes, it was.
Still, observers wonder how DeLuca and Abdy could have presided over a film that veered so far off course from what audiences wanted or expected. One answer, perhaps Phillips was given an extraordinary level of autonomy in Final Cut. There was no test screening, though insiders say this is a mutual decision between the filmmaker and Warner's in order to preserve spoilers. That decision does stretch credulity, as the film does not have a particular spoiler-heavy plot. And even spoiler-reference movies like Marvel Studios' Avengers Endgame had multiple test screenings. For the first Joker, former DC Films president Walter Hamada worked on the project and received an executive producer credit. He was let go, but then he was hired by, I think, Universal, right?
I'm not sure.
I think he was hired. I think that he got hired. He bounced back. This time round, no DC executives were involved, as when the project was greenlit, DC was in full state of near chaos. It would still be months before James Gunn and Peter Safran were hired to run the division and form DC Studios. Here's what you do. Shelve the DC projects for a while. Work on something else. And then when you're ready, then you bring DC back. That's what I would have done, but what do I know?
Well, not only that, but I mean, they kind of need to get people in that understand what the hell they're working
Get
on.
a plan going
Yeah.
for where you want to go. I feel like they're trying to slap something together again like they did the last time. Anyway, since Phillips' main forte was comedy, Emmerich capped the budget on the first at $55 million and brought on co-financiers to mitigate the risk, including Braun and Village Roadshow. Sources tell THR that Alcon, backed by FedEx titan Fred Smith, ultimately put up Village Roadshow's portion and was eager to have a stake in Folie. The Zaslav regime, however, didn't want to see so much money going out the door, and only one co-financier on the sequel, its Slate financing partner Domain. So they basically told the guy, you can't be part of the sequel.
Yeah.
And now I guess he's thanking them now, right?
Apparently.
On Sunday, Warner's didn't attempt to sugarcoat the movie's performance or suggest it has a chance of catching on after being rejected by fanboys, unless people want to see it because of the hate factor. People don't hate watch. I think this is a myth. Am I wrong here?
Nobody spends money to hate watch. That's
true.
for darn
I don't
sure.
spend money to hate watch. I'm already getting max. That's why I'll finish up Uzumaki. One episode left. I got to know how they botched the ending. Anyway, they also didn't point fingers internally, such as at the marketing, which can often happen after the movie bombs. Imagine if just $1 million of this budget was given to Uzumaki Warners. I'm sorry. I'll be good. It's a huge disaster, but what is the fallout? Who gets the blame, asks one source. Both Gunn and Phillips have emphasized in recent days that they did not work together on the project, with Gunn answering a question from a fan on social media asking why DC Studios' logo did not appear on the movie, with the filmmaker exec writing, because it's not a DC Studios film, he went on to add. All future films with DC characters will be DC Studios. There's a DC logo during the credits. Interestingly, and perhaps as a courtesy, Gunn saw the movie at the same time as DeLuca and Abdi, according to the source. I want to say something. This is almost like how Sony has its Marvel thing before their movies, but it's not a Marvel Studios movie, right?
Well, and I also think this is also Gunn trying to distance himself from this POS.
Everybody wants to get away from this.
Yeah.
Phillips himself has confirmed that Gunn and Safran had nothing to do with the movie, saying at recent screening that the attitude was, okay, Todd did his thing. Let Todd continue to do his thing. Gunn and Safran have vested interest in distancing themselves from Joker and the bombs of the past few years, especially The Flash, a proper DC title, as they attempt to reset the brand, a top priority to Zaslav. That's interesting because I remember them praising The Flash and telling everybody it was like the greatest superhero movie ever made.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
I remember that. Indeed, they distanced themselves from Folie Deux almost as soon as they took over as co-heads of the studio. During a presentation for press back in 2023, they outlined their expansive slate, but noted that Joker 2 would not be under the purview and would exist as an Elseworlds title designation given to projects that fall outside of the shared universe of movies, TV shows, and video games they are making. They are working with the Batman filmmaker Matt Reeves on his sequel, as well as a TV spinoff, The Penguin, and other projects in development outside of their mainline universe. Again, they have these other projects still going before they start their mainline universe.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether Joker 2 is a proper DC title, it is the fifth bomb for a DC character-based film since hit movie The Batman bowed in March 2022, with recent misses including Black Adam, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, The Flash, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The more modestly budgeted Blue Beetle underperformed last year, but what was not an outright bomb. Gunn and Safran are hoping to right the ship with Gunn-directed Superman, which arrives in July 2025. This puts more pressure on Superman than ever, notes one Warner's insider. Some also noted the film is a very expensive punchline, a repudiation of the very audience who showed up for the first movie. Ironically, the ending of the film features a man carving a smile on his face, out of focus, slightly off camera. According to one source, the ending of the first movie's originals got featured Phoenix Joker's carving his face in front of the crowd of his supporters, but the Dark Knight filmmaker Christopher Nolan killed that idea, believing that only his Joker, Heath Ledger, should carve his face. But Nolan is no longer at the studio, and thus there was no resistance to the idea this time around. You know?
Yeah.
Is it me, or do we have a lot of prima donnas telling people that I have the rights to do this with my Batman and nobody else can do things? Like, I'm sure the whole Matt Reeves Batman thing now has stipulations on this Batman, the Brave and the Bold movie they're doing. Primarily that I don't think can feature any Batman villains until they're done with the Matt Reeves trilogy, because he may want to use them and he gets first dibs. What do you think?
I think that the entire Warner Brothers DC film thing is a joke and not a folie à deux, or maybe someone is dropping a deuce over there. I don't know, but I think this is a mess. I think that trying to shoehorn this Joker film into anything related to DC was a mistake to begin with. And I think that at least I can say Gunn has enough intelligence to distance himself from it, but I don't see him doing anything that's got me fired up about any future DC projects. So, whatever.
I didn't like the Batman. It wasn't a terrible movie. It was just like Christopher Nolan's Batman Light. It's a watered-down version made by a less talented director. It felt to me like it was treading the same water that Nolan did with his Dark Knight trilogy, but I liked the Dark Knight trilogy a lot better. I didn't hate the Batman because, frankly, I wanted to watch it after I'd watched Batman Cape Crusader because I figured, well, this is the Batman cartoon that follows this new Batman series. And I ended up liking it a lot more than Batman Cape Crusader, which was a disaster. But
I'll tell you what I hated about it. Why did it even exist? It's like, this isn't going to be part of anything ongoing.
Nope.
Nobody asked for it. This is just another rehash of Batman. It's like DC can't do anything that doesn't have a bat on its chest,
They wanted another dark and serious version like the Dark Knight trilogy, but it's even darker than the Dark Knight trilogy. It's just there's some reason why they enjoy making us mad. I can't help but feel a fair amount of this stuff is on purpose. I think a lot of it, unfortunately, I feel like there's a masochism by the people making the movies nowadays. They want to inflict pain on the audience, and I'm like, I don't want to have. It used to be. I think one complaint was
and then there's all these questions. Why is the movie industry dying? Why aren't people going to see movies anymore? Gee, I friggin' wonder.
But yeah, I think the last paragraph goes on to say neither Phillips nor Phoenix was even sure about a sequel, and for a time contemplated putting on a Broadway show instead, before ultimately committing to the movie and bringing on board Gaga in a role inspired by the comic book character Harley Quinn. The idea for the sequel came to Phoenix in a dream, and he and Phillips brought the idea to Emmerich. According to sources, in the end, some are saying that Joker Folie à Deux is a very expensive art film, but when asked who the intended audience was, one outside source sums it up this way: for Joaquin. Well, good. You spent $180 million on a movie for Joaquin Phoenix.
Yep.
Yeah, and Matt Reeves' Batman has the worst bat suit ever to be in a film. I do agree with you.
I agree.
I will say this: in Matt Reeves' bat suit, he did have some interesting gags.